rise to your feet, otherwise cease your interjections. I call the member for Whitsunday.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. Well, Mr Speaker, we've heard from the first government speaker on this motion tonight. No word of investment, business investment. What about infrastructure? In fact, I'll tell you what, Mr Speaker, the member for Cooper talks about stimulating the economy. Well, I'm not going to wait around for the stimulation, Mr Speaker, because you know what? In regional Queensland, Mr Speaker, the windsock is limp. It is limp, Mr Speaker. You go and talk to some of the chambers of commerce in North Queensland, maybe Murray Claude Brown in Townsville, or Heather Woods in Mackay, Bruce Heddich in Bowen at the Larrikin. You can go to Ellie Beach in my electorate, Mark Beale with the Whitsunday Coast Chamber of Commerce, maybe Karen Vlodermans in the Proserpine Chamber of Commerce, and they'll tell you the tale of the haves and the have-nots, Mr Speaker, the lack of business investment in this state under members opposite. Even now we haven't heard a whimper out of the Palaszczuk Labor government in relation to what their federal colleagues in Canberra are saying. We've seen Mark Butler come out, the last couple of days. He's not even interested in opening up the Galilee Basin, not involving government money, taxpayers' money, private investment. What have they got against private investment and growing the economy? Stimulating, in the words of the member for Cooper, stimulating the economy. I take the interjection from the member for Caloundra. They love the royalties like Dracula loves the blood bank. Hey, they love it, don't they? They do $4 billion in royalties last I checked. In fact, Mr Speaker, just as a bit of train spotting, how about a bit of ship spotting? 48 ships off Hay Point on the way down here this week for this week's sitting. And we've got the member for South Brisbane. She loves the money, but she doesn't like mentioning the C word, does she? No, no. What about the coal workers? The coal workers of the Bowen Basin. They've sold them out. They've sold them out, as I see the minister responsible for mines back in the chamber here this evening. They've sold out the coal industry. There is no doubt there is a widening gulf in terms of confidence between the metropolitan area in this state and regional Queensland. The further north you go, the further west you go, the more the people of Queensland despise the Palaszczuk Labor government. Mr Speaker, there's no doubt when we talk about economic management, let's never forget the Premier could not even remember the GST, the rate of the GST. No one was asking the Premier to come up with gold lotto numbers. We didn't want the magic six, Premier. We just wanted the GST, and people have never, ever forgotten that. And, of course, the Premier, during her recent State of the State address last week, did not mention, she failed to mention, the member for Thurringau, he fails to mention many things, but the Premier, she did not mention the words tax, debt, unemployment or infrastructure, and that dead bomb tick, tick, tick towards $83 billion. There are 83 billion reasons why the people of Queensland, especially regional Queensland, North Queensland, want this mob flushed down the you-know-where, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, let's never forget the member for South Brisbane, the bikini-bashing member for South Brisbane. We can't forget that. What she got against the tourism industry in Airlie Beach. Plenty, no doubt about that. When her budget speech, part of folklore in this place, 28 minutes. 28 minutes, the shortest ever budget speech in living memory. And I'm sure there are a number of Labor luminaries that used to sit in there who would have been shaking their heads saying, fair dinkum. What was she rehearsing for? The 7:30 report so they could accommodate the budget speech? You know, I worked in TV. We might have given her a start, Mr Speaker. We might have given her a start. We could have the openers and the closers. Here's Jackie. Just don't mention the debt. Don't mention the debt. Don't mention the debt.
Take the royalties.
They'll take the royalties, as I say, $4 billion in royalties thanks to coal. But what unbelievable, we can't even get the Premier, well, certainly the Treasurer, to mention the C word. There's no doubt about that. Mr Speaker, I'll sum up by saying we are crying out for investment in this state with roads.
Sorry.
We saw what the LNP
Sorry, member for
said.
Whitsunday, please resume your seat. There's a point of order. What is your point of order, member?
I take personal offence at that use of the term C word, and I'd ask that it be withdrawn.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Members, I'm taking advice from the table. There's no cause for you to rupture into all sorts of other interjections across the chamber. The member has taken personal offence. I don't believe that he can take personal offence to that because he wasn't personally referred to. However, I didn't hear the contribution, but I understand it referenced use of the C word. In the incorrect context, that could be viewed to be unparliamentary. I caution you, member, about the use of the language, and I ask you to use your remaining 36 seconds wisely.
I will thank you, Speaker, for your advice as well and your guidance. Well, I'll tell you what, C stands for coal. If there's any ambiguity here in this House, let it be known. There'll be no doubt I will always stand up for the coal industry. And I just want to sum up in this my contribution to the debate. The LNP stands by a record and investment in our 34 months in office, our $8.5 billion 10-year Bruce Highway reconstruction plan. We delivered 11 new schools, including the first school built in Mackay since the 80s, in my own electorate. And I tell you what, well, they're not interested in dams, Mr Speaker. We heard the member for Rockhampton. He didn't even know where Rookwood Weir was last night. They would not know Urana
Member's
from
time has
Uranus.
expired. I call order.